Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty interesting, I think. It's all about strange laws from history.
Okay.
And we found this article online. It's called Bizarre Laws That Will Make You Question History. And believe me, they're really bizarre.
Yeah, some of these are unbelievable. It really makes you wonder what people were thinking back then.
Like, honestly, what were they thinking? Like, how did these even become laws?
Well, I guess that's what we're here to find out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so I think, to kind of get started, I think what's really interesting about this is that it gives us like a glimpse into the past. It's like a time capsule almost.
It is. It's like you can look at these laws and you can see what people valued, what they were afraid of, what their priorities were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like things that seem completely absurd to us now were like totally normal back then.
Yeah, and sometimes even crucial to like maintaining order in society.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So first up, we have a law that'll make any fashion lover cringe. I know I cringed when I read this.
Oh.
So imagine yourself living in 16th century England, right?
Okay.
And you decide to wear like a nice purple outfit.
Bold choice.
Yeah, bold choice. But guess what? You could get in serious trouble for that.
What? Seriously, why?
Because purple was like the color of royalty.
Oh, right. It was super expensive back then.
Super
So,
expensive.
like, they had to get that dye from these tiny little sea snails.
Yeah, thousands of them. And it was a huge process to extract the dye. So basically, if you weren't royalty, you couldn't wear purple.
Wow. Talk about a fashion police, huh?
Yeah, like big time.
So basically, wearing purple was like a way for the elite to show off their wealth and power.
Exactly. And separate themselves from the commoners.
Right. It was like built-in class distinction. Like, you could tell someone's status just by looking at them.
Yeah. And if a commoner tried to, wear purple, they'd be punished.
Interesting. It's like a pre-modern luxury tax, but instead of paying money, you risk legal trouble.
Yeah. So moving on from fashion faux pas, we've got another really interesting law.
Okay, what is it?
This one takes us to 19th century France, where women needed, get this, government permission to wear pants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Pants.
Pants.
Can you believe that?
I mean, I know that clothing has always been a way to, express gender roles, but government permission to wear pants. That's crazy.
It is.
So, why was that a thing?
Well, back then, pants were seen as, empowering. They were associated with men's work and freedom of movement.
Right, because men worked outside the home more.
Yeah, exactly.
So then, by making women get permission to wear pants, it was like they were trying to keep them in their place.
Exactly. Like, confined to the domestic sphere, literally restricting their mobility through clothing. Yeah. And it makes you wonder, how much has really changed since then, right? I mean, we might not have laws dictating who can wear pants anymore, but there are still a lot of unspoken rules about what's considered appropriate attire for different genders.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Think about dress codes in schools, or even just the pressure to dress a certain way in certain professions.
Right. Like, even today, a woman wearing a suit in a corporate setting might be perceived differently than a man wearing the exact same thing.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to see how those historical ideas about clothing, even though they seem so strange to us now, still have an impact today.
Yeah, it's like the echoes of those old laws are still ringing, even if the laws themselves are gone.
Right. Now, are you ready for something completely out there?
Hit me with it.
Okay. This one's straight out of a horror movie, almost.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
The ancient Greeks believed that redheads would become vampires after death.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Redheads. Vampires.
Vampires. Like, seriously.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
I mean, I've heard of some strange superstitions, but that one takes the cake.
Yeah. It's definitely up there.
So, where did that even come from?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but, red hair was pretty uncommon back then.
Right. So maybe it was just anything different or unusual was seen as suspicious.
Exactly. And then you add in all the folklore and mythology about vampires, and it's not hard to see how those two things got linked together.
Yeah, it's like a perfect recipe for some bizarre beliefs.
Right. And it makes you think, how did people treat redheads back then? Were they afraid of them?
I mean, I would imagine so. Right. If you thought someone was going to turn into a vampire, you'd probably avoid them.
Yeah. And it just goes to show, how even seemingly harmless superstitions can have real-world consequences.
Right. It can really influence how people interact with each other and even lead to prejudice and discrimination.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we should always question our assumptions and look beyond the surface when encountering beliefs that seem strange or unfounded.
Totally. You can't just accept things at face value.
So we've gone from purple fashion police to pants prohibitions to vampire fears. It's been quite a journey,
Yeah, it has.
but I think um, it's pretty clear that these laws, no matter how bizarre they seem, they really tell us a lot about the societies that created them.
Oh, absolutely. They're
Okay.
like a window into the past.
Yeah,
They show us what people valued, what they feared, what they thought was important.
Yeah. And they remind us that what seems strange to us today might have been perfectly normal centuries ago.
And who knows? Maybe some of our current laws will seem just as baffling to future generations.
Right. Like, imagine someone in the future looking back at some of our laws and being like, what were they thinking?
Exactly.
So I think that's a good place to leave it for today. It's always good to think about how our laws reflect our values and how those values change over time. And who knows what strange laws the future holds, right?
Right. Who knows?
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.